How's everyone doing today? We're on episode 8 of the Conquer the Mind podcast. I'm Josh Dubois of JD Strategic here. We got the first episode with multiple guests on today, so super excited to kind of introduce everyone today. We got Chad Harrison, we got Mike Hutchins, we got Kimberly Blasky. So we're going to really dive into everyone's background today. Kind of how I usually start is just diving into people's background, and for anyone trying to understand where's everyone coming from today. So you kind of see the backgrounds, you see the Authority Brands background. So that is the parent company of a couple of the brands that we've already had on. So Mosquito Squad with Hayden Shaw. We also had on Jenna Spedicino, who now has a different last name, but we had her on of Home Watch Caregiver. So we've had a couple different brands as part of the Authority Brands, which is the parent company that hosts all these brands. So this is going to be a little bit of a different episode, so I'm very excited to kind of dive into Authority Brands, how a parent relationship works, and really just diving into all the different backgrounds today. Because kind of the joke is everyone knows that you don't really find franchising, you always fall into franchising. So very excited. So I think first things first, like I said, I like to really dive into people's introductions, especially as a young entrepreneur. I always kind of say, a lot of people, even myself, very lost in life a couple of years ago. You graduate from college, there's a lot of pressure, do X, Y, Z, especially nowadays. There's so many different options. People feel very overwhelmed trying to figure out the right career path. So just trying to understand people's different backgrounds. If everyone could just start by giving me an idea of, when you're in high school, what was kind of the environment looking like? Were you surrounded by entrepreneurs? Did you have a business path? What did things look like in high school for you as you're starting to transition into that college phase? Mike, do you want to start with that?
Sure. So it's been a little bit going back to high school, but I mean, honestly, in high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. College, I majored in business and communications, but um, you know, I ended up being recruited by a company that I worked for during college, and I got into sales right away, right after college. Did well, a variety of different industries. Got into franchising, accidentally. I was selling trade show displays, and one of my clients was a hotel company, and
Mm,
the company I was with promoted me. I was relocated out to Arizona, and I ran into one of the people that I used to sell displays to in New Jersey on a golf course about,
mm,
uh, um, an hour from where I live. Turned out we lived about a mile from one another, and he was in hotel development franchising. And
mm.
we started playing golf together. Our wives got along, and he kept asking me, "Why don't you come work for me?" And I said, "Life is good. I'm happy where I'm at." But he's a good salesperson. So after about a year, I decided, let me give it a shot, and immediately fell in love with franchising. And I've been doing it now for over 20 years.
Mm.
A variety of different industries. I've, been an individual producer, someone who's managed and led multiple teams. I've had, at the same time, 10 brands in two different countries. But I've been with Authority Brands now about 3 years, and I manage the growth of the 1 Hour brand along with Chad and Kimberly. And it's been fantastic. We've had several record years in a row. Our owners are happy, and we just keep looking forward to adding more quality franchisees to the system.
That's awesome right there. That's interesting. The hotel background as well. Kind of a lot of people, I feel like when they make the transition into franchising, they start in like the restaurant industry, the hotel industry, the hospitality industry, and you kind of learn all these valuable, communication skills, marketing skills, sales skills. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of your time in the hotel development industry and how that kind of transitioned into your time with Authority Brands, where some of the big lessons learned in the hospitality industry? Just because I feel like a lot of people do make that transition from hospitality, not even hospitality franchising, just hospitality in general, to franchising. So trying to help someone understand kind of the difference in lifestyle from franchising to that hospitality.
Sure. Well, I mean, I love the hospitality industry. It was, very rewarding in a
Mm,
lot of different ways. But when I was in the hospitality industry, I traveled quite a bit. And that
mm,
was really the only reason that I left it. Once I started having children, being away 4 nights a week just,
yeah.
didn't fit my life, any longer. But I love franchising. So I was, looking for another opportunity. But there's a lot of parallel. I mean, franchising is a process, and it doesn't matter if it's hotels, if it's education, home services. There's a process that's involved that is,
Mm,
really similar. And so, I, learned that process well. Um, got to meet with many, many different people from many different backgrounds. I had a lot of people come into the hospitality industry that, were not from that industry, but they liked it because, when you boil it down, it's about keep it clean and, and smile
yeah.
and, and really just providing the right expectations for your customers. And that's the same, with really a lot of businesses. I mean, there might be some more things that you factor in besides keep it clean and smile, but I mean, it's really about the customer's experience and just you
Mm,
know uh like I said, I mean, I did that for so many years and I traveled the entire country. I mean, been to 48 out of the 50 states. So it's really served me well because now, I manage the entire country, but I've been to most places. So no matter who I speak with, um, I can talk about their hometown or, a city close to them and I enjoy that.
mm. No, that's all really powerful. Those are a lot of valuable skills that you learned over the years. Chad, Kimberly, do you want to kind of dive into what brought you into the franchising world and kind of your background a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go first. So I mean, to what Michael was saying too, I mean, coming out of high school, I had no idea. I did begin to focus then again on business administration, and just I love, the idea as you begin to kind of analyze businesses and their success and their challenges. But I went as far as I got into Wall Street and to Citibank and working there for some time, operational, and that was quite an experience in that city, and just in that environment. And then as the economy turned around and in '08 and so forth, and after that, I began to actually, just like Michael again, began to kind of I routed into restaurant management, and you've got a great point there too, Josh. It does seem like everybody's coming from hospitality. It was always in a sales role for the most part, but a number of different great types of restaurants, Mediterranean, your standard American food, Italian, high end, low end. So, number of different types of restaurants and venues, and there were some really, really good restaurateurs that was fortunate enough to work with. It's a tough business for sure, and it's a challenging business, and I mean it is hustle, hustle,
Yeah.
and so it really prepares you for this kind of business to just kind of transition with that sales and into this. And I was fortunate enough to work with Michael and then with the Authority Brands group, and it's just a veteran class group, to be able to just kind of pick up, listen to what they say and how they approach the business, and just make it mine. And I've been in with franchising now 2 years, and like Michael said, too, with 1 hour heating and air. We've had some great years, and we just continue to push hard, and it is really rewarding. Some parts of it that you don't realize until you're in it or you've been in it for a little while is just the rewards that you get from somebody becoming a franchisee. Coming from whether from corporate world or
Mm,
another business, and they're exiting and becoming that franchisee and seeing that dream realized. It is rewarding, and love where I'm at now. And again, we've got some great brands, and
mm.
but yeah.
No, it's awesome, and it's so interesting because everyone's always asking for like an ideal candidate in franchising or like who is franchising for, and already Wall Street hospitality. There's no one size fits all. Everyone just has such a different background. It's just once you find out about it, you just never go back. It's just so interesting. Kimberly, do you want to kind of dive into what kind of avoid high school? I guess that's kind of a tough one, but kind of diving into your career experience in college, heading into the franchising world, what kind of brought you into this world initially?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually extremely new to franchising. So being on a call like this is super nice. I love hearing everyone else's backgrounds and kind of how, a lot of people do have a similar start with that where they don't come from franchising at all. But
Mhm.
similarly, in high school, not really sure what I wanted to do. My background is in retail management primarily. So I got a job at a retail store in high school, and then that transitioned into management,
Mhm.
which I did really enjoy for a time. It was challenging, it kept me busy,
Yeah.
but kind of like what Chad and Michael mentioned is it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of work. There are a lot of variables that aren't really in your control,
Mhm.
which kind of led me to being interested in sales. A lot of that is kind of, you get out of that what you put into it.
Mm.
So I started working in sales for, gosh, quite a while now. I work primarily in the trades. So when I did see an opportunity to work, um, with the trade still in a franchising space, that really kind of got my interest.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm very new to it, but it's been
Yeah.
super exciting, super interesting, and I've been really enjoying it.
That's awesome. I love that perspective, and I love just the different ranges of experience from everyone on the call, and just gives everyone, the point of the podcast is really to explore these different perspectives, everyone's different opinions, and there's no right or wrong journey, but everyone just has these different paths. So trying to help someone that may be lost in life, like so many people are, and as we kind of dove into, a lot of us also felt that way as well. So I think that's very interesting. And Kimberly, as someone that's very new to franchising, I'm always so interested, as I kind of mentioned, once you find out about franchising, you really never go back. What's kind of, as you dive into franchising, what was kind of your initial reaction to the franchising world, and kind of just like the type of person from, your experience in the retail world and dealing with those type of people to now you're in kind of the franchising world. Can you speak on just the culture of the franchising world just in your short time here?
Yeah, so I mean, I've worked enough places now that I think the culture really can vary a lot. With authority brands in particular, the culture is phenomenal. I think in a lot of sales roles, you can have people who are in it just for themselves, where it doesn't feel very team oriented. I've
Mhm.
never felt that way with authority brands, even like you said, it's a parent company. There are a lot of different franchises, a lot of different brands, but we
Mhm.
all still kind of feel connected.
Mhm. Oh, that's awesome. And Chad, Mike, do you have anything to kind of add on to like your initial reactions in the franchising world, especially Chad working on Wall Street? Mike, your background, how does it kind of change in the franchising world? And what's kept you here so long as well?
Well, you know, kind of to piggyback on one of the things, that Chad had brought up, this career in franchising is very rewarding. I mean, it's
Mhm.
provided a life for myself and my family that is very good. But
Mhm.
it's also rewarding in that I can look back over 20 plus years, and it makes me feel good to know that I've had a small part to play in someone changing their life, getting into business for themselves, taking that step to improve, their own lives, and just
Mhm.
being able to look back on that. That is extremely rewarding. Every deal is a little bit different, so it doesn't get stale. I mean, I'm selling, 1 hour franchises, but every client is different. Their needs are different. And it keeps it exciting
Mhm.
to be able to guide someone through that process. And then, like I said, help them make that decision to go into business for themselves. And, you know, we've heard over the years of people that, they've got more financial freedom, they have more freedom with their time. They're able to spend more time with their families, things like that. And I just got back from conference last week. I was in Orlando with every owner from every one of the Authority brands, 1,800 people. We gave out awards. People were up on stage talking about how franchising had changed their lives and how, they've now had people working for them that were able to buy their first home, and just seeing how they pay that forward. They've gone into business for themselves, and now they're providing jobs for people in their community, good jobs, and just, just how that just mushrooms, from, that first initial call that we've had with someone. And now they've got a big business with lots of employees, and, just changing that many lives. It's extremely rewarding.
No, that's all so powerful and really just kind of sums up franchising and kind of that perspective. If you're lost in emotions, like so many people are, they're in this role where every Monday, it's the same thing, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're going through the 9 to 5, doing the same exact thing, in franchising. Every day is a whole new journey, dealing with a whole new candidate from a whole new, diverse background. It really is. If you are someone that feels stuck in the motions or someone looking for more, it's really just, are you someone looking to take control of your future? And I love everything that you said right there. I think that's really interesting. And Chad, before we move on, do you want to kind of just dive in from, especially your thoughts working with people on Wall Street and kind of the culture there? I actually was just met someone that works at Bloomberg today, and he was not a fan of the company culture. So I would kind of be curious what your thoughts were on the company culture and how the transition to franchising, kind of what those differences looked like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in our franchise and with Authority brands, I mean, there's the individual and the team, and it just
Mm,
really meshes well together. And I think to your point, unfortunately, with some of the in the Wall Street area, and it's just especially in New York City, it's just a big hustle, and it's just elbow to elbow. So it is definitely, and there's some rewarding jobs for sure in that area, and the business. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, to be in where we're in a position like Michael was saying, and to help someone realize their dream and the opportunity of exiting, which to your point too, Josh, some of these candidates have told us, hey, I'm ready to exit the corporate world, I do something better for my family, for myself, create jobs, and so it's just exciting to be a part of that, and to be able to, and as opposed to be kind of a link in the chain, but it's more so a big part of a change with somebody's lifestyle for sure.
No, that's all really powerful what everyone said. And I just love the different thoughts and opinions on how you got into franchising, those different backgrounds. So now, we're 20 minutes in. I see the Authority brands backgrounds. I've kind of given a brief summary, but you guys are the experts. You've been at Authority brands for years now. In your eyes, what is Authority brands for the viewers? And can you kind of walk us through what a parent company is for someone that's not really that familiar? And like I mentioned, I've interviewed Mosquito Squad, Home Watch caregivers, so they kind of understand what those are, but kind of dive into how Authority brands layers into that. I don't know who wants to take that on.
So you're talking about, different growth strategies where, in addition to just adding more territories with a single brand, that's one of the benefits of Authority brands, is that
Mhm.
all of our brands are home services. So we want to own both inside and outside of every home. So it's an excellent opportunity for our owners to be able to do that. I have many 1 hour franchisees who later on layer on another trade brand: Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, Mr. Sparky Electric. I have an attorney up in New York that, had a pool in his backyard. He layered on an America swimming pool. I had another attorney in St. Louis who owns Airbnbs, and he layered on a cleaning authority. And I was, just like I mentioned earlier, in Orlando last week with every owner, and I have a restoration franchisee who wants to get into the HVAC space, and he's going to be able to operate that business out of the same exact facility where he has his restoration company. So it's definitely something that we promote, the power of authority brands, and it's really enabled our owners to scale that much more quickly by being able to, there's marketing synergies, and it's the same customer, the homeowner. So they've already got a relationship with that homeowner, and now they can offer additional services. So it's an excellent advantage that Authority Brands has with having all of those, different home service brands under one umbrella.
No, that's awesome right there. And, that's a really big thing as I'm speaking on the phone with potential people that are interested in franchising. They're always concerned with the marketing. How am I going to actually get my customers? I'm making this big investment, purchasing a business. So, what am I getting out of that? Where am I getting my customers? Where are these leads coming from? And, when you kind of mentioned just dominate the home service industries inside and outside of the house, I think you kind of touched on it, but really just the cross marketing opportunities when you have a franchise that, works on pools, works on 1 hour heating, works on plumbing, home watch caregivers. You literally own every aspect, as you mentioned, inside and outside of the house. So, whether you have a service like plumbing, someone needs that service, then it's like, hey, you have a pool in your backyard. Here's ASP swimming pools, for example. So I think you kind of touch on that, but does someone else want to kind of touch on just the cross marketing opportunities when you have that parent company? Because I think a lot of people, they're worried about having that support in those systems, and every franchise gives you that support, but the Authority Brands really gives you that additional layer, and the cross marketing I think is just so powerful.
Sure, I'll share an example. So I have a new multi-territory owner for 1 hour, Austin, Texas. So we already had a Ben Franklin in that market, and at no cost to the 1 hour owner, they were provided with the entire customer list. So every homeowner that's already working with Ben Franklin over many, many years, immediate access, whether it was postcards, emails, and it just helped really accelerate the growth trajectory of that new 1 hour owner. So, and that's replicated all across the country, different brands, sharing their customers. We had a function in Dallas last year where we brought in all of the owners from all of the brands for a reception so that they could get to know one another, work together, share customers, create some marketing co-ops, etc., to to help reduce some marketing costs. And again, those initiatives are going on all the time within Authority Brands.
No, that's really powerful. And I know you guys just had the huge in-person event that you mentioned in Orlando. And, that in-person stuff is just so powerful. And I just like the cross-marketing tools so much as just someone so interested in, home services, just this need that everyone really continually needs. Everyone has that home. You need to service that home. And, with home ownership, there are so many different kind of home service franchises, especially nowadays, that's becoming kind of a bigger and bigger theme. How does Authority Brands decide which home service companies, which franchises you specifically want to work with? So like, for example, home watch caregivers, there's a lot of other senior care franchise opportunities. How do you specifically figure out what companies are a good fit as part of the Authority Brands figure, if that makes sense?
Well, as Kimberly had talked about, the culture. So, you've got, we're looking at opportunities all the time. And, our sales team has a culture, but Authority Brands also has a culture. And, again, it's going to be home services. We just added Lawn Squad and Screen Mobile this year. Maybe there was even another one that we added this year. I mean, we're constantly looking at more opportunities, but, most of the time, these are smaller companies that they were successful, they started franchising, and then they want to take advantage of the power of Authority Brands to really accelerate their franchising goals. But and then that owner is going to be a part of the Authority Brands family, part of the, corporate ops team for that particular brand.
Mm,
And, we need to be careful, and we want to make sure that, um, that those owners, new owners, or, brand presidents, they're going to be called, understand our culture so that, they can, you know, this has been their baby, for many, many years. And, just like, any parents, like, now you're going to have a babysitter, and you're kind of turning over the responsibility for the company that you built to someone else. And we want to make sure that it's good fit on both sides. Just the same really as when we're bringing in just a new, franchisee, that it's a good
mm,
fit not only for them, but also for that particular brand. So we evaluate, how it's going to fit into the Authority Brands umbrella, but then also look at the culture of that business and see if it's going to fit as well within the Authority Brands family of brands.
mm. No, that's super interesting right there. And as you kind of mentioned, that candidate, I think that's a good transition, kind of talking about really the ideal candidate for Authority Brands. And, I always kind of joke about, or really a lot of people joke about with franchising, a lot of people think McDonald's, they think Subway, a lot of people think food franchises. A lot of people don't necessarily think kind of the home service opportunities. And, we kind of joked with Mosquito Squad, maybe Mosquitoes only open 6 months a year. You may not think that's a profitable business, but we learned it's a very profitable business. So how does someone really evaluate if home services is kind of the right opportunity for them as they're kind of diving into the franchising world, starting to think, all right, franchising may be right for me? What would be kind of the draw to the home service industry specifically, would you say? I don't know who wants to start with that.
It could be background. I mean, like for
Yeah.
instance, you're mentioning mosquito squad, maybe someone that likes to be outside, someone that likes to be outside of the house, or and working outside constantly. I know for as Michael mentioned, just having the Brands conference, we've had a lot of some owners that kind of send in referrals, individuals, friends, contacts of theirs that might have an interest. So from there, we have someone that's kind of in a position to l- looking at home services, but which home service? So we have to kind of dive in to get an idea of their background exactly, maybe where, again, would they rather be outside or inside the house?
Mm,
Do they prefer, the type of business, of whether more a little more of a trade like an HVAC as opposed to maybe something more along the lines of you said, like home watch caregivers, a different type of trade and different industry. Um, to begin to kind of decipher exactly what's the best connection for them. What's great about a lot of our brands, I mean, you don't necessarily need, especially on the trade side, you don't need that background. And I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but essentially, our candidates tend to be entrepreneurs, investors, and a wide range IT specialists. Don't need that technical skill so much as the franchisee owner coming in. So, but it's yeah, kind of digging into their history and their job, their own interests.
mm,
Well, a common denominator with the home services, for the most part, is, you know, they're more of a need than a want. Like, 1 hour, for example, people are not going to go without heating or air conditioning for themselves, their family. So our prospective franchisees like that it's an essential service.
mm,
They like that it's recession proof, etc. That is attractive with the home services, in the most cases.
mm. No, yeah, I could not agree more with, just not finding those ones that are fads, those ones that, people need rather than want, that recurring revenue, those high transaction services that, like you said, a lot of people in corporate America, when they are making that transition to the business world, they don't want to be out there, door to door, having to sell this new service, or, maybe for an emerging brand trying to sell this new concept to people. They'd rather already have that concept developed, and rather they can already bring that strong brand recognition to a market of people that already do need that service. So I think that's very interesting. And as someone does start to get interest in authority brands in one of the brands, can someone meet with multiple authority brands companies at once if they were interested in home services? Or how would that kind of work if someone was introduced to Mosquito Squad, for example? What would kind of the next steps be for a potential candidate?
Well, I mean, the process is similar. We want to make sure that they have all the information needed to make an educated decision. The process takes probably about 5 weeks.
Hmm.
It includes being educated on the opportunity, reviewing the franchise disclosure document, having the opportunity to speak with existing owners within the system to get their perspective on a day in a life. We'll create a territory for them and have a meet your team day so that they can meet with other senior executives from the brand, but really on the operations side to see the power behind the brand. They get to meet some of the people that will assist them through the onboarding process, as well as on an ongoing basis and in every aspect of running and growing their business.
Hmm. No, that's very interesting right there. So I think and that's kind of a good transition into another thing as I kind of start to hear from candidates, and I think Authority Brands really does a great job with this. One thing people are always interested is, if they were to start a new business, it's like, all right, where am I going to find my customers? Who am I going to market to? Whereas when you're buying into a franchise system, can you just speak on what kind of support and systems you have to help candidates with real estate selection and really identifying whether a market would potentially be strong enough for a Mosquito Squad, for a Home Watch Caregivers, for an ASP, for example, just figuring out, are there enough pools in that market for someone to accomplish their goals financially? Can you just speak on kind of the help with the real estate selection?
Sure. Well, I'll speak about 1 hour since that's the
Yeah.
brand that I manage. But, we are the market leader. We're the number one residential HVAC company in the country, franchising for 20 years. We have 375 locations across the country. I am not going to approve a territory for someone that does not set them up for success. So,
Mhm.
I have certain parameters that I put around a new territory. I mean, I want to make sure that they can effectively manage it when they're first starting off. I look at income levels, number of homes, the population within that area, making sure, again, I know historically, statistically, what it takes to create a successful, self sufficient territory. So I will ensure that, any new location, again, has everything in place um, to foster their future success.
Mhm.
But you talked about marketing. We're very good at making the phone ring. We
Mhm.
will manage social media, the webpage, Google ads, etc., all on their behalf. We have our own internal team. There's a toolbox with television ads, radio spots, really any type of print or digital marketing that they can think of is in there. We will make their phones ring. We will build fences around their customers once they're engaged with them. And we will make sure that when someone in their area is searching for a contractor, their business shows up on the first page near the top of the list. I
Mhm.
have countless owners that are adding their second territory, within their first year. You do not have to be a salesperson. We are going to take care of all of that, for you. Our owners just need to supply the budget.
Mhm. No, that's so that's just so powerful how when you are buying into a franchise, you have those systems in place. I actually did real estate selection for a franchise when I was in college, and you literally see how many customers you're gonna have in that market. You're really not guessing with the business trying to, I can't even really get started with when you're trying to start your own business, the sales, the marketing, having a product, just trying to sell yourself. There are so many different steps, and then just trying to consistently be the best in all those different departments is what I think authority brands and just franchising does, which is so powerful, just giving you that additional support, that layer to be the best in all these industries so that you can really just rely on your strengths. So I think that's an interesting transition into just speaking about, we kind of spoke about kind of that ideal candidate, but when you kind of look at franchises in your system, the ones that have really been the most successful, do they kind of have like a typical background? what are kind of their strengths that really help them thrive as a franchise owner as part of Authority Brands?
Sure. So 1 hour again,
Yeah.
a background in HVAC is not a key attribute for success, in our model. For the vast majority of the people that I work with are not from the industry. They're entrepreneurs. They like that it's an essential service. They like the high return on investment, relatively short ramp up period. Key attributes for success include the ability and desire to follow the system. It's already been replicated successfully hundreds of times across the country. And also understanding that as an owner, what this business is really about is building a team, creating a culture, having all of your technicians aligned towards the same common goal. So it's important, for 1 hour, and every brand is different, but for 1 hour, someone needs to have kind of that coaching mentality. And if they don't, they can hire a manager that, that has that team building skill set.
Mhm.
But those are important. You do not need to know the technical side of this business. Last year, I had a NASCAR pilot come into
Oh,
the system,
wow.
someone in med school, attorneys, engineers, finance, IT. Um, this year I've got a woman out in California owns a big real estate brokerage coming in. I have someone from the Department of Defense this year
Wow.
opening up in Hilton Head. So again, you know, the key attributes, if someone's communications, if someone wants to be an owner operator, this is an example with
Mhm.
1 hour, but I see that maybe their communication skills are going to be an obstacle if they're going to be the one answering the phones, acting as the dispatcher, etc. This is not the right vehicle for them. Something else would be a better fit because again, just like the site selection, it's important to put the person in the right opportunity for themselves. I do not want someone coming in to 1 hour, taking money out of the bank where it's safe and not setting them up for success. So, if I see that that's going to be an obstacle, I'll let them know that that's not the role for them, and if they do not have the budget to bring on the manager, or you know for their own peace of mind they feel like they have to be at the business and they have to be running it, then they
Yeah.
need to look for a different opportunity. So
Mhm.
we really do our best to ensure that all of our owners are set up for success from day one.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just so powerful how franchising really you get that full education process. You can really just hear the passion when you're talking about it, and it actually has that meaning to you where, it really is about the long-term vision of Authority Brands. It's not really just about, selling a franchise to one territory owner, because really the last thing that you guys want is someone that isn't motivated, someone that's not going to pick up the phone, someone that doesn't want to grow the business. We need people that, they wake up when the alarm clock hits in the morning, they're ready to attack the day. So I think, as much as franchising really is for everyone, you still have to have that motivation to really want to be successful. And, as you speak to a lot of potential candidates, a lot of people interested in franchising. Can you kind of speak on those primary motivations that you hear from people? I'm guessing probably a lot of people in corporate America. What are you kind of hearing from people, especially nowadays? We might be in kind of a tougher economic cycle. There's a lot of uncertainty with things. What are you kind of hearing from people on the phone, and how do you kind of address those kind of, people who have a little bit of a fear right now?
Well, people join a franchise, for you know a variety of reasons. Some of the most common that I hear is, like you said, the examples, people may have been laid off and all of a sudden that's, they've been successful and, they have families to support. And now all of a sudden their life is turned upside down. And for the first time, they're not in control of their future.
Yeah.
And they take a step back and they, start to think, you know, I really would rather be in control. Like, I don't want this to happen to me again. That's one reason why people, look to set up a business for themselves. Other times people have just been, successful in what they've done and now they've got money and it's an investment vehicle.
Mm.
A lot of our owners are semi-absentee, so they've got money invested in real estate, maybe in the stock market, but they want to build a business. And it's, uh, it's more of, like I said, an investment opportunity. And they like 1 hour. They like the scalability. They like that, in fact, if they do want to transition out of their current role, 1 hour is going to be able to replace or exceed, their current incomes. So they look at it as, let me get this started while I'm still working, and then, I'll transition over it. They can build a legacy for their families, etc. Lots of different reasons.
Mm. Yeah, that's really powerful. And that's a lot of things that I hear a lot of times with candidates, and kind of one of the biggest errors I kind of feel like where, someone's in corporate America, they're making 200K, they're making 250 a year, and they only focus on the FDB as part of the education process, and they start to see, is this going to align with my income levels in corporate America, which it's understandable, you have to provide for your family, number one, you're making a great risk, but understanding, with franchising, you have that control, unlimited scalability. And I think you're kind of touching upon, you're building up an asset to really build that generational wealth opportunity for your family. So rather than kind of that 401k, that retirement fund, you're building up, this physical asset, very much like real estate, that you can touch and feel and have control over. So I think that's something really powerful. And Chad, Kimberly, do you have anything to add as you're kind of hearing those primary motivations from candidates?
Yeah, I have some stories that you almost get a little bit of a chuckle out of it, and they do to themselves. Yeah, say for instance, restaurant owners, they have their refrigeration units they have to have service, so they have these HVAC technicians more on the commercial side, but they see the residential opportunity too. But they see these technicians will come in and they get the receipt. And they're like, wow, this might be a great opportunity for me as far as to see the possible revenue I could be making. And then they make up the call and they talk to us and they find out, yeah, it's an essential service. And I think to like what Michael was saying, it's like what's the word, is basically diversify the portfolio. So they have a number of different businesses they have, and these essential services just fit in perfectly. And that's been the conversation a number of times for sure, is their focus is that diversification. So, but yeah, even in the home, they have the HVAC technician comes out and replaces their unit. They're like, maybe I should look into this business. So, sometimes even simple as on the customer experience, customer side.
Mhm. No, that's fascinating. Kimberly, do you have anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, kind of like I said, I'm very new to this, but coming from a background where I actually used to work very closely with folks in the trades, mostly smaller mom and pop shops, plumbers, HVAC techs, electricians. The thing you hear time and time again is they like having their own business, but they're always lacking something, which is time. They're out on the road in their truck for 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, but actually managing the business side is what they can't really do, and that's what they need help with. So that's kind of what I've been hearing, basically echoing that is they need help on the business side of things.
Yeah, I love that point, Kimberly. That's, it's really true. When you want to start your own business, you're probably working Saturdays, Sundays, you're not going to your kids' sports games. There's a lot of sacrifice. And a lot of times everyone kind of daydreams about being a business owner, let alone all these different things. And then, the first challenge hits, and then it's like, what do you do from there? And, it's just so powerful how you already have those systems in place so that you can financially thrive, you can thrive in your lifestyle, and you can really make that impact on other people. So I think that's a really good transition. I know our time is starting to wind up here, but as we're talking about working in the business, working on the business, for someone kind of new to franchising, kind of trying to understand the different participation types from owner operator, executive model, semi absentee, and full absentee is kind of a myth, but some brands throw it out there. Can we kind of just dive into the authority brands? What kind of participation types are offered? What's kind of the ideal candidate? Someone working in the business, on the business? Do you offer semi-absentee? What are the different participation types for someone potentially interested?
Sure. So full absentee, we do not offer. We are not going to manage the business, for an owner.
Mm.
but, and some of our brands only offer owner operator. That's the only model that would be acceptable. Others, will offer owner operator and semi absentee. 1 hour is one of those brands. I mean, in fact, probably 60% of our entrepreneurs, which make up probably 90+% of our new franchisees, start semi absentee.
Mm.
For those reasons we talked about. They want to retain their current income until the business has gotten to a certain point. But for day to day, if you're an owner operator with 1 hour, you are going to be in the facility Monday through Friday, typical business hours, answering phones. You will be the dispatcher, the face of the company, the scheduler. You'll be the conduit to our corporate marketing training teams, receiving deliveries, conducting team meetings. Those are going to be your primary responsibilities. For our semi absentee owners, they're putting in on average probably about 10 hours a week managing their manager. Their key responsibilities will include approving budgets, reviewing daily management reports,
Yeah.
those types of things. That's what our semi absentee owners focus on.
No, that's awesome right there. It's always nice to have different participation types for people that may be interested in one thing or different. And some people, they may start in one participation type and then work their way up to a different model. So I find that very interesting just for someone trying to evaluate what might be right for them. And for someone, they may decide, authority brands, home services, this is for me. They want to make that decision. What advice do you have for someone to kind of hit the ground running and franchise it? Someone signs that contract, they finally become a franchisee. What advice as, someone that's been in the industry, you've seen successful franchises, you've seen successful franchisees. What are those successful franchisees doing on kind of a day in, day out basis?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, follow the system. It doesn't matter which brand it is within the Authority Brands family.
Yeah.
That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the system. When the GPS for your brand tells you to go left, do not go right. It's designed to save you time and money. It's the pathway to success. And, there is a difference between an entrepreneur and a franchisee. I mean, there's a lot of common denominators, but there is a difference. And, the one thing, after you purchase that franchise system is to embrace it. Everything is laid out for you. Every aspect of that business is going to be outlined in their operations manual. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. It's bowling with bumpers. So I would say do your due diligence, understand, because every brand, is different. Look at more than one. You need to satisfy your shopping urge. Like, look at a few different concepts and evaluate them and see which one. Talk to existing owners. Again, that's one of the most important things. You're
Yeah.
going to be able to, talk to people that mirror yourself. Ask to speak with people that have similar backgrounds. If you're going to be establishing it with no industry experience, semi absentee, talk to some owners that, that have those same characteristics and see how, their experience is, and you'll be able to set the proper expectations for yourself. Once you sign the franchise agreement, go all in. Roll up your sleeves. We do a lot of it for you, but you still, have to take the ball and run with it and embrace the system. I see the owners that get off to the quickest starts are the ones that follow the system. There's no lag in, marketing to their um, uh, prospective customers within their territory. They jump on recruitment. They have their teams in place ready to go at the end of their onboarding. They're the ones that are fully engaged with their franchise business consultants. Like,
Yeah.
learning never ends. Like, they're always wanting to learn more about the system. They're proactive. They're the ones that are attending the conferences and, sharing best practices with other owners. Those are things that are important. So, immerse yourself in the brand, in the system, and it's going to pay dividends for you.
Mm. That's really powerful. And as you were kind of, stop talking, I was kind of thinking about candidates, and as they're trying to evaluate the right opportunity, potential questions people should start to ask themselves. And you really hit it, the validation. You're going to talk to other franchise owners. As you go through each step in the process, more questions are going to come up. It's really just a good lesson in life where a lot of people feel are overwhelmed on step one, trying to get to step 100, but you're never going to get to step 100 unless you take steps 2, 3, and 4. So not trying to think you need all the answers at once, just taking it step by step. And as each step comes, you're going to get even more questions, and you're going to get those questions answered in the next step of the process. So I think that's really powerful and something that a lot of people just don't understand, that validation process. And another thing that I think is really important to note is it's not like you're just getting those 10 franchise owners that are doing the absolute best in the system. You're literally getting every single franchise owner in the system, people that are selling their franchise, are there lawsuits against their franchise? You're literally going to get a complete picture of the opportunity set, for your regulations, for your safety, for your protection, if you were to potentially become a franchise owner. So I think that's something very interesting. And as someone is thinking about franchising, we kind of talk about corporate America. I've done recruiting in corporate America and asset management. I've seen, especially lately, age discrimination has become a really big thing, especially in corporate America, where you reach a certain age and, you kind of just get let loose for someone younger. It probably does the same skills, or, just in these tougher economic cycles, when you think about franchising, is it ever too late to get started in franchising? What are your thoughts on that? Is there kind of a time when, the opportunity is already passed, or, can you always get involved in the franchising world? What do you guys think on that?
Well, it depends on the business opportunity. I mean, if you're going to
Yeah,
be an owner operator, and it's, going to demand, 60, 70 hours a week to get it started, and you just can't commit to that, that
yeah,
it's not going to be successful. If you're talking about, the investor model where, someone has the business acumen, they have the financial strength to start it, they understand, they've managed teams before, or, maybe they've owned other businesses before.
yeah,
Absolutely, there's no, age limit. I mean, they can take their wisdom, their past experiences, combine that, with the financial resources that they have,
yeah.
and they'll be able to hire, the team that they need to execute the goals. So it really, it depends on the type of business that they're looking to open.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's really good advice. Just, and really what I'm here for is to align, those lifestyle goals, those overall goals with the right opportunity. So like you said, there isn't a wrong or a right age to get involved in franchising. It really is just about, if you are someone looking to take that risk, take that next step, and we'll give you that step-by-step process. So as our time is winding down, just kind of one final question, and I think, feel free to answer it how you want, but it's kind of one misconception in the franchising world. As you've kind of been in franchising, some of you just getting started, some of you have been in franchising for a while. Was there anything when you kind of first got started to where you are now that you were like, oh, that kind of changed my way of thinking? Or just any maybe kind of last thoughts of advice for someone maybe thinking about franchising? I don't know who wants to start there.
Great question. I mean, definitely on the trade side, I mean, do I have to be an electrician to start on Mr. Sparky Electric, or do I have to be an HVAC technician? And that definitely, and it's still a question I get today. And it's, as Mike, alluded, you do not need that past experience to be a franchisee. So still get that question today, and definitely one that I would have thought myself when I first came in was definitely, necessary.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. It is so interesting with all these different franchises. For the most part, you don't need to be, ASP. You don't need to, I actually cleaned pools back in high school and college. You don't need to actually have that industry experience. You just need to be an entrepreneur, someone looking to grow and scale a business for the most part. So, yeah, I totally agree. That's very interesting.
I mean, I'll share, parting thoughts. Anyone that's looking to get into franchising, you know, and I had said it before, do your due diligence, go
Yeah.
through the process. Don't ever allow someone to rush you. Don't skip any steps. There's no hurry to get to the finish line. I mean, uh, I want, and within all of Authority Brands, all of my counterparts, we want people to have the information to make an educated and an informed decision. And there's a process that allows you to collect that information. So, if you're looking, with other companies, you know, have time, ample time to go through the FDD, have ample time to speak with existing owners, have ample time to ask and have all of your questions answered. Make sure that you participate in that meet your team day. It's important too. Every brand has its culture. See, the people that you're going to be working with, and feel comfortable that, that's a culture that you want to be part of. And if you go through that process, and do your due diligence, you will absolutely be able to determine if that opportunity is the right fit for you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that, Mike. Kimberly, do you have any kind of thoughts as someone new to franchising? Anything that kind of surprised you as you kind of get started?
Yeah, I would say kind of conversely to what Chad said, or Chad was saying about, the entrepreneurs, the business owners who they want to get into franchising. I would say it could be so beneficial to the folks who are running the business and maybe, don't have the time, don't have the management or the business skills to really grow that business. It can really be life changing, honestly. Financially, it's freeing up a lot of their time where, they actually do have that time now to spend with their family.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that's a great kind of wrap up to episode 8. I think, franchising just allows you to capitalize on those strengths. For a lot of us, or really everyone, we all have certain weaknesses, and franchising allows us to figure out those strengths and weaknesses and really capitalize on the right opportunity that allows our strengths to thrive. And just going back to the education process, I think it's just so powerful where, you get to make that education process, the full education process. And what's really important is that it takes time. It really could be a 6-month education process. So although you may be thinking about business ownership, I speak to a lot of people where, they want to kind of procrastinate doing the process until January when they say, they're ready to make a business decision, in 2024, the new year comes around, but you can't make a decision if you don't have any of the information. So it's really important to understand you guys got to take those steps so that you can start to get those questions answered so that you can make that educated decision. So, I'm super excited. Episode 8 with Authority Brands. I think what we learned is they're controlling all aspects of the house, inside and outside of the house. And it really is a service that people need. You're not really selling this service as something, a fad, something that people just want. It's something that people need to, maintain their house, maintain their safety, maintain their security. So thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chad, for joining me today on episode 8 of the Conquer the Mind podcast. I appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having us.